Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? It is I once again, Mac the Duelist to the TCG Enterprise, where we talk about all your favorite card games. And speaking of card games, you guys, oh man, well, it's all in the news, so I'm not going to go into full-on details of it. You guys already know. For those who don't know, I'm just going to give you guys just a very briefing. I'm talking about Edison format for Yu-Gi-Oh. I started getting back into I first started Yu-Gi-Oh when the first structure decks came out. You know, the Yugi deck, the Kaiba deck, the Joy deck, the Pegasus deck. That's when I first started. And then things changed around, and I got off from the game for a little while, and then I decided to go ahead and jump back in 2009. So, given that fact, I was running around, and the synchros were still being a thing. The exceeds hadn't even shown up yet. And then things just started getting a little bit more crazier as the time went on, but it was still a very good format era. So pretty much what they're talking about in regards towards Edison format, which obviously the biggest elephant in the room is Goyo Guardian. Goyo Guardian has never really had a major set on errata. I mean, it's had an errata, but I mean, like, as far as its requirement types, that they literally changed it from a generic sense to a more broader sense. And what I mean by that is that basically they took Goyo Guardian and they pretty much put him in there to where he can only require offer a Earth tuner, which in those times tuners were very hard to come by. They're not like they are now. It's like we have a whole wide spread. You know, um, as of right now, I mean, it's very hard to come by for those kind of tuners, unless you're playing X Sabers or if you're playing six amps. I mean, it's very very hard to come around those kind of things. The resources were very limited back then, given the fact that we obviously start from Legends of Blue Eyes and all the way up to the current state. You know, past the Crimson Crisis and the Visions of Chaos and all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, but the fact alone is that during that whole time, synchros were still very limited, and this is a very synchro heavy format. I mean, and you had to figure out some ways to get into Goyo Garden as best as you could possible. The unfortunate thing is that now you have that limited to you. That's not the only reason. Konami, I don't know why they did this, but whatever. They decided to go ahead and modernize it with the current state of cards in their erratas as we speak currently. What I mean by that is that cards that have a heavy once per turn are now immediate into effect. The cards like Sangan, which allows you to go ahead and just get the monster, now you have to use the more modernized version, which basically means that you cannot use effects in the same turn as the same card as the one that you basically acquired. Lone Fire Blossom, you can't use that as a pop-off method to go ahead and search out for another Lone Fire, to go ahead and thin out the deck, to go ahead and get off your Giga Plant or your Princess or anything like that. You can't do that anymore. Now you have to ask. There's no more priority effects, so now you have to literally ask every time you do an effect. So, like, let's say it's for a once per turn effect, like Gale, Blackwing Gale, the Whirlwind. You have to now ask your opponent, "Hey, is this fine?" And then, based off a normal summon, you have to wait until your opponent has a response, if they do or they don't, and then you could go ahead and utilize the effect. So it's a very weird thing. And honestly, I mean, I'm just asking myself if this thing is dead, because it seems as such. It just seems like every time that we try to have something to isolate ourselves away from, Konami has to step in and think that they're saving the problem. But in reality, what they ended up doing is that they're just pulling the puppet strings. They're messing around, pushing buttons and twisting knobs and stuff like that to try and see what they can make it look like as if they're actually helping the problem. When in reality, what they're doing is that they're ruining the problem and they're making it worse. So, I mean, Edison has always had some minor tweaks and stuff like that. But this is definitely one thing that did not need to be fixed. I mean, at least based off my opinion. And now people are all upset, and there's going to be a lot of backlash. And I mean, I don't know if at this current state, if Konami will be nice enough to fix the problem. Because this all started in the YCS. They pulled the curtain off, and then they pulled off the sheets off the bed. They said, we've had enough, and we're putting on a new blanket. We're putting on new ideas, and this is the newest idea here, is that we're going to just modernize everything. So now all these decks are now currently made, are now being affected, which means that people have to reestablish their decks. They have to reprioritize their strategies. And they also have to basically get the whole old school mindset out of what they were currently playing and now modernize it with modern effects that have nothing to do with the original format. What I mean by that is that you know how erratas work. Erratas are basically things that really, really hit the nail on the head. It's very broad. They're going to immediately tell you how the card is going to eventually be ran, and then once it goes into effect, this is now how you have to play the effect. You can't go with the old style anymore. The problem with doing that is that you have an example of basically having an iPhone in the 90s. You can't have something modern and get it implemented into a format where the effects were never taking place. These effects do not take place in the old style of formats. Why? Because they never happened yet. So you cannot modernize something that is old school and hoping that everybody can learn to adapt to it. I mean, that's honestly just my take on towards this. So, I mean, case in point, I mean, this is what's happening with the Edison format, Time Wizard format. I don't know what to say. I already had 3 decks already ready to go. But now, given that fact that I have to literally modernize all the cards that I have in the current state that they are in, is not only going to cost me time, but also money. And at the same time, it's going to start seeming more redundant, and the game is going to just start flip-flopping all over itself. And I feel like this format could die. I mean, but that's just my take on this. You guys can go ahead and comment down below what you guys think about this. This is basically just a 2 cents of what I wanted to tell you guys about. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this right now. I need some time to think. But feel free to give any feedback that you guys want to in regards towards this, and hopefully Konami changes their minds. Highly doubtful that will happen, but we'll see in the near future. And anyways, thank you all for listening. Take care, be safe, and happy gaming.